Welcome back to the Counselors Corner podcast, brought to you by the award-winning Golden Eagle Broadcast Network and produced by whcih. Mr. Hall and I have an awesome guest for you here. You all know and love her. This is Miss Fitzgerald, Amanda Fitzgerald. She's the P-Tech counselor here at Frederick. She also brings a ton of experience and a ton of other expertise to the table, which is why Mr. Hall and I wanted to interview her today. So, Amanda, let me talk about some of your awesome, qualifications, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. Okay, so bachelor's in psychology, master's in counseling for the University of Colorado, Denver, worked in a dual diagnosis group home for 2 years, has worked in schools since 2015, so easily the most experienced of any of us here at Frederick, which is why we come to you for a lot of things. She's also a licensed professional counselor, a nationally certified counselor, and a licensed professional counselor supervisor. I will not try to say that 10 times fast. I'm just going to keep on going.
Soup.
Racking them up.
She has been providing supervision to others wanting to get their LPC since 2023, has provided telehealth services to adults and adolescents, and I really love that you said this, Amanda. Amanda has a strong belief in people's ability to change and grow and passionate about helping people live their best lives. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. One of the first things we talked about in one of our first episodes was how some of our backgrounds are so different. And some of us even have different degrees, like from colleges and different masters and all those good things. Obviously, Ashley's a former psych and Maddie's a former social worker. How did you kind of get to be a school counselor? Did you always know it was something you wanted to do, or did you kind of find it along the way?
Yeah, I would say I definitely knew I wanted to be in therapy or mental health. I remember putting this on like one of my graduate school application because it asks kind of what was that pivotal time and stuff. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the YMCA summer camp, like every summer. That was our big thing. Mom and Dad went to work. We went to summer camp.
Nice.
And it was a day camp, and I remember there was a girl that I kind of knew, I was kind of friends with, not really, but she was overweight, and I remember these boys making fun of her, and she was just crying at one of the benches, and I was talking to her, and I remember getting so mad, and I was like, well, stand up. And she was like, what? I go, put your leg up here. And so I had her put her foot like on the bench, and I was like, now go ahead, like hit your calf and stuff. And it kind of like jiggled around and everything. I said, now flex and do it. And it didn't jiggle. And I was like, see, I said, you're not fat, you just have muscle.
Oh, I love that. Wow.
And from then she was like, yeah, you're right. And so, we went off and played and did she wasn't in the corner crying and kind of went and did the activities, archery or whatever was going on that day. But I just remember that feeling of like, oh, I helped. Like that felt so good. And so from then on, I was like, I want to be a therapist and I want to be a psychologist and all these things. And so definitely going through, middle school and high school when you have those type of electives, I was taking all the psychology electives, all the sociology electives and stuff, and looking into schools. My ultimate goal was to get my PhD. But I would say when I got my bachelor's is actually when I was finishing my bachelor's is when I was working at that dual diagnosis house. And for those of you that don't know, dual diagnosis means they have an addiction as well as a mental illness. And so we were dealing with patients that were either coming out of jail or coming out of the hospital. And, at this time I'm 21, 22, working with 40, 50-year-olds that are coming out of rehab or jail or anything like that. And I started to really get burned out. And so it got to be really hard. They were trying to sneak stuff all the time, and being so much younger, I didn't, they didn't really respect me or anything. And so after I finished my bachelor's degree, I was like, oh, I don't know if I do want to do this. And I actually took 8 years off before going back for my master's and working in bartending and waiting tables and just making money and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. Moved out here to Colorado in 2006, so graduated with my bachelor's in 2004. A couple years later, made it out here. And it got to the point where I was like, what am I doing with this degree? Like, I'm sitting on this degree. I'm sitting in this debt. Like, what am I doing with it? And I started to think about what I could do and had to go back for my master's. I knew I wanted to do that. But I really started to look at the school because with my experience of working with adults, I felt like it's so hard to work with someone in that time in their life to elicit that change, to help them, decide they even wanted to change. And so I really started looking at like, well, how do I work with people before they get set in their ways? How do I work with people while they're still developing their ideals and their morals and their view of what their life is or what could be? And so that's what led me to schools. And it felt like, a way for me to cast a really wide net, to work with some students that maybe would never come seek therapy, but also be able to, help with those little moments of influence to help them get through some of the barriers and stuff. So
that's awesome.
That's a great journey, Amanda.
That was like, you knew from the beginning you were going to be a helper, and it was like a lifetime of learning and kind of led you to where you're at now. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's such a cool journey. Do you think the idea of like people being like the best version of themselves, do you think that sort of was back to you being at the YMCA with this girl who viewed herself so differently than how you saw her, and just this idea that I can help you be the best version of you? Like, do you think that stemmed all the way back from that?
Maybe not so clear and concise and like that, but but I would say the feeling, I think at that time I maybe noticed, like, again, words I wouldn't have used at that time, but like noticed internalizing those like external feedbacks that we get, how people treat us, how situations turn out. We take all of that feedback and internalize it one way or the other, either positive or negative. And so, I think just kind of seeing it as like, depending on how we take in information, that really determines our outlook, our view of the world. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you obviously have a very different role than a lot of us other counselors, and I don't know if everybody really appreciates that as much as we do.
We definitely
you are like on this like almost like an island of P-Tech that does all the things we do and then some. And so obviously you are a P-Tech counselor working with Ames primarily as our college partner. Can you just talk a little bit about that? What kind of goes into the P-Tech program? And also, because kids are essentially college students as soon as they step foot here at Frederick High School, it's like the biggest things that you've seen that help kids kind of prepare to be a college student.
Yeah, I would say in terms of my role and just making P-Tech work, it's collaboration. I mean, there's so many different people that I talk to and work with, from Ames, from the district, from other schools here in St. Vrain that have P-Tech programs. In general, I mean, you said it, right? They're simultaneously working towards an associate's degree and high school requirements. And so it's a lot of organization. I would say I have a lot of spreadsheets. I have spreadsheets on spreadsheets. I think I've doubled up. Like, I have a couple different tracking where I'm like, why do I have the same thing in 3 different spreadsheets? I don't know, but it feels
one
good.
Difference.
It does, you need a spreadsheet. If you get anything out of this, you need a spreadsheet.
Love that.
But I mean, I think organization and collaboration are the 2 biggest pieces that go into my job, is just making sure that I'm reaching out with questions and when I need help and stuff, and just keeping track of where all the kids are at. I would say probably the same skills for the kids to be successful.
No, seriously.
I think taking their first college class as freshmen is super scary, and some get excited and love it, and others are in tears in October because they're like, I don't know why I did this. This is too much. And so a lot of it is really just one, helping them build the skills that are going to be help them be successful, the time management, the organization, the, meeting deadlines, decision making. I'm going to not hang out with my friends. I'm going to make sure I get this done. But also helping build their own confidence in themselves. Like, yes, this is hard and we can do hard things, right? I know that we throw that phrase around and stuff. It's like, yes, it's hard and you can do hard things and you deserve this. And anything that's worth, your time is also worth your effort. So
yeah, I'd say that's pretty consistent. I went to a college conference earlier in the year, that conference update that we go to every year, a couple of counselors, and that's almost word for word what the professor from CSU said was if you guys can stay organized, and this is for all the kids out there listening, no matter when you start your college journey, if that's your plan, right, because not everybody's going, whether it's in high school or after you graduate from here, the more that you can stay organized, have a clear vision and then be able to execute whatever that looks like. Doesn't have to be the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Like we're here to give you guys tips and tricks and some what we've seen work, but whatever works for you guys can really help you be successful. So yeah, I think that's maybe the overwhelming answer that I hear a lot of times when we start thinking about college and, what can help kids just do well, because it is scary, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing that you do that the rest of us don't do through P-Tech is internships. So you help set kids up for them, but you also help them through the whole interview process. Do you have any tips and tricks for kids through job interviews, internship interviews, anything like that for their post-secondary goals?
Yeah, I would say slow down. A lot of times we go through the interviews with our kids for internships and a question comes up and they feel like they have to know the answer right away or they have to fill the space while they're thinking. And so I've learned from, being in interviews myself, but also we invite members from our P-Tech companies to be on the interview panels as well. And so we're getting feedback from people that would honestly be on their interview if they were to apply for a job and stuff. And so that's really valuable. But one thing I hear them say a lot is slow down. It's okay to think. It's okay to ask a clarifying question. It's okay to even say, I don't know. Let me think on that for a minute. If you need to feel like you need to buy yourself time and stuff. But the funniest part, I think, is when we have interviews and we set aside 20 minutes and they're done in 8. We're like, okay. Because they're just like, and this is what I did. And, so slow down. Take the time to think through your answers. You don't have to feel rushed. Eye contact and those nonverbals are always great. Not fidgeting too much, making sure you're looking at everyone in the room, not just the person that asked you the question. And then always having questions of your own. I've learned that interviewers always want to see that you are invested in learning about their community, their business, their culture, whatever it is, whatever you can come up with. But a lot of times interviewers really like to know that you've done a little bit of research on their company. So, oh, hey, I saw your mission statement was this on your website. Can you talk a little bit more about it? So doing a little research beforehand and having a good question at the end for you to ask them just shows that you care and you are invested enough to do some digging on your own before coming and really getting prepared.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Definitely.
Any other words of wisdom from our students, just from your years being a school counselor?
I think you guys have said it a lot, right? Like, the hard skills or whatever maybe they're soft skills. Time management.
They're skills.
Yeah, skills.
Important skills.
Skills. But I think finding your own path, right? Like, yes, we push college a lot. We push the techs and trades and a lot of different opportunities. But I hope that students see that as just that. They're opportunities. It's certainly nothing that we're saying one is better than the other. And And I would even say, you know, in my generation, growing up and in high school, we were all pushed to go to four-year colleges. Like it was like,
Absolutely.
if you're doing well in school, you're going to college. There is no other option
No
for you.
choice,
You're going
yeah.
to a
Right.
four-year program. No, don't do community college. No, you're not doing the techs and trades.
Yeah.
And I think that's shifted so much. Like we have a lot of really academically high achieving kids that are very much interested in going to a community college and getting a certificate or going into the trades. And I think that's something that should be celebrated and something that should really be explored regardless of how successful you are in a math class or an English class, and that whereas I feel like I didn't get exposed to as much of that, and you know, I don't feel regret because I do love what I do, but I think I hope that students are kind of finding their own path, finding what they're really interested in, and hearing from us that no one way is better than the other.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, just the amount of variety that we have, I think, here at Frederick High School, just compared to like when I graduated. I graduated 11 years ago, and it just feels like things have just blown. I mean, this podcast, for example, like having a kid like Marcus when I was in high school, like we didn't have anybody able to record a podcast, you know, like it's just, I think there's so many avenues for kids to go down, and man, like it's just worth exploring. So
I agree.
100%. We want to shift a little bit more towards talking about you as an LPC, licensed professional counselor, and we already, I think Ashley mentioned a little bit ago, a little bit of your philosophy around like people's capacity to change. A term that I used a lot in grad school was unconditional positive regard, or UPR. And can you just kind of talk a little bit more about that and how you envision yourself just helping people live their best lives as a counselor outside of your school duties? Because you do a little bit of this outside of here as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big one, right? We definitely learned that. And I think the heart of it is understanding not to put my experiences on somebody else. And so taking a step back and understanding your perspective is your reality. And so I always try to remind myself of that, because especially, you know, working with students or adults or anything, is that I don't have to believe what you're saying. I don't have to agree with what you're saying, but I am going to acknowledge that you believe it, and that is dictating your reality. And so if this is what you believe to be true, it makes sense that that would be your reaction for it, right? And so I think that's kind of where I try to start, is taking a step back and just saying, in the sense of unconditional positive regard, I'm going to blindly believe whatever you tell me. Like, I'm not here to prove it true. I'm not here to prove it false. If this is what you believe to be true, then that's what we're going to work with, because that's your reality that you're living in. And then, you know, certain counseling techniques can help to either show the client that reality is true and valid, and we need to work within that, or maybe they are having some thinking errors or some, you know, internalization of past experiences that are affecting it that maybe aren't really true anymore. And so helping them recognize that, to say, okay, I don't need to react this way, because even though I used to believe this is true or this was true, maybe I'm learning that it's not, and so my reaction changes based on my assessment of the situation changing.
Nice.
I know you do quite a bit of professional development for your LPC. You've talked with us about how you started a class recently about nutrition and how that impacts people's mental health. I don't know anything about this, other than I know I feel crap. Yesterday, Josiah and I were in the teacher's lounge, and I ate a ton of chocolate. Like, not like, okay, this is a nice little treat. Like, I was just like, oh, my stomach hurts so bad, I'm so tired now. Like, I can feel it, I don't really know why. So as you've been doing this training, like, what's sticking out for you as the most important takeaways for our students?
Yeah, I think just that, like, it really is coming down to what we eat. I started this last year, reading a book called The Mind-Gut Connection, and learning a lot about kind of the three main players in our mood regulation. So serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Those are neurotransmitters, basically chemicals our body creates in order to regulate our mood. And so whether it gives us energy and focus or it gives us calming effects, they all kind of play their own role. And it was amazing to learn how much of that creation and those neurotransmitters live in our gut and live in our stomach and our digestive tract versus our brain. And so looking at what we eat directly affects our production of these chemicals and being able to regulate our mood. And so a couple things that really have stood out for me and big picture things are the processed foods, processed carbohydrates. And so carbohydrates, they can come from fruits and vegetables, but they can also come from cakes and, and cookies and all the things.
Good breads.
Right. And so yeah, I've been learning like it's the direct function, basically carbohydrates in your system trigger a production of insulin. The more insulin we produce is actually sweeping the amino acids out of our bloodstream and into our muscles and fat that would be carrying those serotonin and norepinephrine and dopamine. So the more carbohydrates that we're eating, the less of those mood balancing chemicals are making it to our brain. Because it's basically insulin's just flooding our system and getting everything out, including the good
stuff,
mood balancing chemicals and stuff. And so a big thing to focus on is just whole foods. Like the more we can eat foods that have not been processed, you know, actually cooking at your house or going and eating something, you know, grilled instead of fried because of the breading and the oils and everything. Even just little things like that can have a huge difference because it's allowing our body to produce those chemicals and it's allowing those chemicals to get from our gut to our brain so that it can affect our mood and our mental health.
Okay.
Big ones, so protein. Protein is great. It's a brain food. Brains run off protein and cholesterol and fats. Vitamin D was one I found. 15 minutes of daily exposure to the sun gets us vitamin D and can help elevate our mood. So even if going outside and taking a walk for 15 minutes gets you vitamin D, that can help elevate the serotonin and stuff. And and last thing, this one I thought was very interesting, melatonin, because I know a lot of our students talk about taking melatonin when they can't sleep. That one it's not great for long-term use. Melatonin is actually a hormone that our body produces, and so the more we take supplements and artificially put melatonin in our body starts producing less of it. And so
because it feels like, oh, I don't need to make this anymore because you're giving me this vitamin every day.
And
interesting.
So the more they take melatonin, the less they're able to produce it themselves and naturally fall asleep, and you become more dependent on it and everything. So, so I know that it can be helpful, but then other things like, you know, not being around blue light. They say like that darkness deficiency can be a cause of sleep deprivation because our bodies naturally release melatonin when the sun goes down, when it starts to get dark. So if you keep your lamps low level, not on your phone or your iPad right away, your body's going to naturally signal your, or your brain's going to naturally signal your body that, hey, it's time to wind down and go to sleep.
And then produce some of those melatonin chemicals. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I feel like I learned so much right there. Okay, so so it's almost lunchtime, right? So like I'll take a little break. Our students have lunch. If I'm feeling, either me or like one of our students, if we're feeling a little anxious, a little sad, just like a little, you know, it's not like a great day. What should we do? It sounds like maybe taking a 15-minute walk. What should we eat for lunch, or what else can we do to kind of help us reset for that second half of our day?
yeah, again, the whole foods, like if there's a salad out there, any sort of vegetables, granola, whole grains, like obviously eating the school lunch is hard. I know we do get a lot of processed stuff here. And so, you know, doing the best you can. And it doesn't mean that every meal is going to be carb free or process free.
Right.
But it's finding that balance. And so if it means that, you know, at lunch you aren't able to get everything because they've got the breaded chicken sandwich and pizza and stuff like that, then, you know, maybe eating the chicken without the bun. So, you know, limiting the extra processes and the extra carbs as much as you can, but then just knowing to balance it throughout the rest of the day of what you're eating. But yeah, I would say, you know, the more you can do whole foods, fruits, and whole grains, proteins, that's going to be best. That's, you know, like you said, you get that sugar crash, which basically is just our body depleting all of the amino acids that we need to feel up and energized and positive and stuff. So
I'm going to really try not to do this today. So I'm going to try and avoid the huge bowl of Hershey Kisses that's in the staff lounge
Still
today.
in there.
Let's say,
it's still in there.
Oh, yeah.
let's say I accidentally slip and fall and like 20 fall into my mouth and then I start having that sugar crash. What could I do to like reset? Like I feel the sugar crash, I feel that energy. I know some of our students feel that. Like we have 90-minute blocks. What could we do to try and get out of that crash?
Definitely exercise. Just getting up. Yeah, just getting up and trying to move around, especially if, you know, if you're in class. I know teachers will let you stand in the back or take a break, go to the bathroom. Just get up and kind of moving around as much as you can.
Yeah. I love when I see the teachers doing the walking breaks.
Yeah,
You know, I know Mr. Wellington's not here anymore, but he was really good about taking kids around the school and walking, even getting outside. I know it's really hard to do in a full class period, but the counselor in me loves to see
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
the moving and grooving around the school.
Yeah. And then I would say maybe just a lot of water, because the more you can flush that stuff, the faster you can flush it out, the faster you can kind of reset and get some of those healthier foods in there.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
What else? Mr. Hall, I feel like I learned so much today.
No, this has been great.
Do we have any last questions for our resident experts?
No, not for me. No, thanks so much for joining us,
Thank
Amanda.
you for being here, Amanda.
Yeah,
great
thank you.
conversation. If you see me going on a walk today, let's not have any judgment about how much chocolate I consumed beforehand.
You know what? It's your reality.
Yep.
The queen.
Crown on the head. All
queen.
right. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thank you.